go ahead and get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the back, on the table outside the door and also on our website. There's also an automatic external defibrillator on the back wall of the legislative chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started with the actual meeting, I'm going to give myself a point of privilege and just give a real quick overview of, if you remember, part of my ARPA allocation that I received to use within my district. Part of it was given to Play It for Page Foundation. And Saturday, Sunday, and today, or yesterday, they had the 3 training sessions that we coordinated and partnered with the National Wellbeing Council, Mental Health First Aid. And so they were in training Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the mental health first aid to community members. And they came from a wide variety, parents, coaches, teachers, just community members. And so one of the things that they would like everybody to do is, and I'm going to read this so you understand what exactly this huge box of candy means. So Paige Rosner was a senior at Skutt Catholic High School when she died by suicide March 30th, 2022. She suffered from depression and anxiety, but one would never have known from her outward appearance. Paige was kind, caring, smart, funny, outgoing, and a friend to all. Whenever she saw someone who appeared down or as though they were having a bad day, she would give them some candy and uplifting words such as, "Smile, everything will be okay," or "You matter." After Paige's passing, her parents created the Play It for Paige 33 Foundation to help students and student athletes like Paige. Their advocacy efforts include mental health and mindset training for several high school club and collegiate sports teams. They also started the Kindness Candy Project at Skutt High School, placing candy bowls in the counseling center and athletic office. They ask each person who stops in to grab a piece of kindness candy to take 2, one for themselves and one to give someone else, as Paige would have done to brighten their day. And so yesterday when I was visiting with the training session, they gave me one of these boxes of candy, and so we're going to put it in our office. And if there's anyone else who would like one, let me know. But it is a small gesture and a meaningful gesture. And again, a reminder for all of us to be kind to each other because we never know what one is going through. And so we appreciate Paige for what her legacy is leaving behind, and we thank her parents for having the bravery to come forward and talk about the tragedy that they've experienced, but that then now turned it into a meaningful awareness and educational piece for the community in learning about mental illness. And so we thank them, and we will certainly display the candy box. So thank you. So with that, we'll move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle is absent. Commissioner Kavanaugh? Here. Commissioner Friend is absent. Commissioner Garcia? Here. Commissioner Morgan? Here. Commissioner Rogers? Here. Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, October 17, 2023. And item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Citizen comments. Anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda?
Good morning.
Morning.
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I brought some evidence along with me this morning. I want to talk about exemptions again. A week ago, or the meeting before that, I brought up about there are 2 Islamic centers along Northwest Radio Highway. And I question whether Islam is a true religion, therefore maybe they should not be getting exemption as a true religion. Plenty of evidence, and I've got a bag full of other books that if you care to learn about it, Islam itself is not a true religion. I am not against Muslim people. I am against the Islamic State, the Islamic political system. Therefore, I don't think we should be giving tax exemption when I can't afford my property taxes. But anyway, because of the way I was treated for saying that, and the statement that your person back here, I forget his name, that my Islamophobia should be walked out of here. I take high exception to that. And because you people obviously are not honoring your constitutional oath under God, the one true God, maybe all of you should walk your Amerophobia out of this room. I understand that the Dundee Business District Improvement District is being delayed. Well, it probably should, because that whole area from Cummings Street to the Northwest Radio next to the Homey Bar is in pretty much disarray, and a lot of it is because of homeless and immigrants, migrants, and Islamic centers. Very, in my opinion, much more delighted than my neighborhood is. And I don't know why it's not being severely blighted. Maybe that's why the Business Improvement District is being delayed. But my words are not just my words. KFAB is talking about it again this morning, maybe. And Dr. Mark Christian, who is one of the authors, will be interviewed on KFAB. The morning show is usually the better one. The afternoon show, they talk about it also. Declaration of Independence and the Constitution talk about we the people, and so does the state constitution call us we the people and call us the electors. So I would appreciate if you would schedule a joint presentation about some of these. We need to talk about Islam versus Christianity, but we also need to talk about the elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to our resolutions. Resolutions D through H. We do not have need for an executive session, so that can include adjournment. Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote. Jim.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, next we'll move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kavanaugh. No. Commissioner Garcia. Here. Commissioner Morgan. Here. Commissioner Rogers. Here. Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. And item B, approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next is the consent agenda items, A through I. Please notice D and E have been removed. Is there a motion to approve?
Teresa, your County Attorney's Office, I apologize for interrupting. Could we lay over letter A, please? I've been in communication with the health center, and they're okay with that.
All right, so consent agenda item, A's being laid over, B through I. Any further questions or comments? Roll call? Yes. Oh, I don't see. Just a second, I don't see my, no, the total. Okay, go ahead.
This is on item C, a resolution approving a contract with Carlson West Pavandra Architects for design services and contract administration for the Douglas County Corrections mental health renovation. I don't know if anybody from public property is here, but this is.
Morning, Jeff McGill, Douglas County Public Properties.
Morning.
Morning. Jeff, this has a backup document that says, does this item commit funds in future years? Yes. And if yes, explain. And under the explanation, it says funds committed for 4-year project end of 2027. I think in August, we received this document regarding the Corrections Mental Health Space Study, proposed renovations, existing spaces within the Douglas County Department of Corrections, which called for the construction of a new addition to the Correction Center. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And this item C of the consent agenda deals with that new construction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what's the construction amount? It's not listed in the cover of the backup document. It's not listed on the agenda. What's that amount?
The estimate is $3,700,000. Or 30 million.
I'm having difficulty.
30 million.
30
Yes,
million, okay. 700,000?
correct.
Okay. And what is that for?
That's for the construction alone, and then you have other fees that are associated with that, architect, engineers, consultants.
Could you speak into the mic?
Sure.
I'm having difficulty hearing you.
That's just for the construction cost.
Okay. And the construction is what? Could you describe that for the record?
The construction is the renovation addition to the existing correction center for the mental health.
Okay. So if I was building a building and somebody asked me, you're constructing what? I would say, I'm building a 4-story building with 250,000 square feet to do this. So we're being asked to put out $30,700,000 to build what?
86-bed mental health facility. Our target is 30,000 square feet. And we are in schematic, we had to do schematic design to figure out the layout, 1-story, 2-story, so we're in that process.
Okay, so it hasn't been determined how tall this building is, but it's kind of in the 30,000 square feet, 86-bed capacity, however you.
That's our target, yes.
And according to this and discussions that we've had over time, there's a footprint on the corrections campus currently that would be utilized for the construction of this 30,000 square feet, 86-bed.
That's correct. We are looking at going north of the facility. It seems to be the most convenient spot, which is spanning over the Sallyport area.
Right. So there wouldn't be any new land acquisition by Douglas County.
That's correct.
Okay. The $30 million $700,000 construction budget
1 minute.
is just construction. There's no staffing or anything which would be additional and ongoing expenses for this, correct?
Yes.
The funding source for this $30,700,000, again, it's not indicated on the document that comes with the consent calendar packet. So what is that? The funding source?
The funding source is, this is it's a contract to engage with Carlson West Provanda.
No, I'm not being clear.
Okay.
The funding source could be general funds from Douglas
Oh.
County. It could be dedicated funds from some
This is-
underfunding source. It could be federal funds. What is the funding
This
source?
is the ARPA funds,
American Rescue Plan Act.
correct.
Time.
Okay, I'll come back.
No other lights. Go ahead, Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Total $30,700,000 for this new jail expansion would be from the ARPA allocation to Douglas County. And I think the balance of that is somewhere in the $50 million range.
I believe you're correct.
Okay. None of that ARPA would go towards staffing this ongoing jail expansion operation.
As far as I'm understanding it, it's part of the corrections budget.
Okay. Are there any estimates on that you're involved with?
I'm not.
So your office, Public Properties, is specifically involved with the construction phase of this proposal,
Yes, design and construction,
not the ongoing operation and staffing.
correct.
Right.
The ongoing statement that I put in the agenda was we're going to be expending funds through that. It's not like a year, so we're expending funds over the 3 years.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's something that Public Properties would supervise,
Correct.
right, for us.
Yep.
The jail expansion itself would be designed, according to this contract that we're entertaining today, by the architects West, or Carlson West Pavandra, right?
Yes,
And that's basically the purpose of this proposal today.
correct.
Does this proposal also involve the dedication of additional monies for the construction of this?
No,
Okay, that'll be a future,
that will be a future contract.
okay. So going back to the beginning then, when you said this is I believe you said a $3 million proposal for the architectural?
No, their costs, their fees is about 2.3 million.
3.3?
2.3. 2.3.
2.3?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
It's 7.75% of construction cost. And right now, we're anticipating the 3 million, or 30,700,000, which comes into the 2.3.
Does that percentage apply, or does that dollar amount apply? For instance, if it were to run over the $30,700,000, would that 7.75 percentage adjust the?
Correct.
Okay.
Up or down.
Right. So this 2.3 million is based on a 7.75 of
The
30,700,000.
Yes.
Right. But that could vary,
That can vary, yes.
and the contract says that.
Yes.
Right, okay. These services that they would provide, it'll be architectural services, would it also be engineering services?
Yes.
So
Full architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil engineering,
Okay.
all disciplines.
Would that be all under the Carlson West Pavandra group, or would they sub that out, or do you know?
It's all under this contract.
Okay. Would there be any other engineering services that would come with this later on?
Commissioning, which is outside this contract. It'll be owner provided.
That'd come back to us at a future date, like we talked about the construction
Yes.
phase of this. Okay. So this is simply to design this new expansion of the correction center.
Yes, correct.
You know, this is professional services, and I understand how this goes, but was this
1 minute.
particular bid, was it put out for bid?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And were there other bids for this service?
There was not.
The architectural and engineering services that West Provandra, Carlson West Provandra provided previously on this study and some previous services, do you know what that all amounted to?
Not right offhand, but that included the studies and town hall meetings that we conducted prior.
Okay. Do you have any idea when we would be through this phase and back to considering a construction phase?
I believe it's going to take, let me look at this for a minute.
Time. No other lights, Commissioner Morgan?
Jeff, what would be the time frame of having those plans? Do we have an idea from him that it'll take 90 days or something to get that ready to go out for bids?
Well, we're looking, our target is in May.
That you'd have the
24.
plans by May to go out for a bid?
Correct. It's a big
Okay,
project.
so today what we'd be committing is basically that 7.5% number of the construction cost, which will be somewhere in that vicinity.
Correct.
And the estimate's about $1,000 a square foot to build this building on that land there at the correction facility.
Yes.
Will it take away much of the parking down there?
No, we're gonna, the parking will be there. We might lose a few spots, but we're gonna be elevated over that parking lot so we can tie into the building.
And maybe I should know this, but I don't. Do we have an idea, I'm just stating, of the cost of operating that with our mental health provider today? Have we had conversations with them? I don't know if Lori from finance or Patrick or our commissioner chairperson, Marianne, might know what we think that new cost might be to operate it, people-wise, to staff it, and so on for those 86 beds. I'm just wondering.
Well,
on
Mike
that.
Myers will probably have to answer that. But if I recall during the study phases, it was minimal, but we'd have to bring that back up.
Minimal increase in the current operation.
If I recall that correctly, yes.
Okay. I think we should try in negotiating this contract. The only thing is, sometimes, you know, we know it's approximately that $30 million. We ought to say right now, not to exceed, you know, this number. That's the estimate. Because we don't know what is taking place as far as inflation and other increased costs. It'd be nice to have that. I've done that on some projects, you know, with the bid not to exceed. They give you that number and then not to exceed. That's something to think about.
We've done it both ways. Doing it this way, we could have, you know, it could be over the 30 million, it could be under the 30 million, and it kind of benefits both parties as a team.
Yeah, it's just a suggestion by me that it seems like to ask not to exceed 7.5%.
We can do
of the
that.
30 million.
It's the will of the board, and we just brought this for approval. If we need to change it, we can change it and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions or comments? You, I'm sorry? Okay. Let me just ask one more time, is there anyone else wishing to speak on item C? I'm sorry? Yep, anybody.
I'm Ed Fogarty, 521 North 38th Street, Omaha, Nebraska. And I don't think you ought to enter into this agreement at all. Obviously, I've been before this board.
Could you speak up? I'm having difficulty hearing right into the mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You've heard my presentation before about the law involved, that ARPA funds are not meant to be spent on capital expenditures at all, except in the most limited of circumstances, and the sections of the statute, Congress's instruction to you on mental health does not provide for building hospitals, building jails, building substantial things. It was always intended to go to beefing up the workforce, helping kids, helping hands-on services. You've gone well beyond that, and I can tell you why it happened. I've been around Omaha for since 1940, and we always go with where the money is with developers, architects, and they seem to call all the shots. And you don't look very closely at the law. It so happened here. You know I have before you, because I copied all of you, public records demand wanting to go back to the origins of this and your communications with the government and the due process given you by your lawyers and your accountants. I call Deloitte accountants. Nobody looked at the law until, I think some of us, me, I think in April, came in and started carping about the fact, hey, ARPA doesn't provide for this and you're at high risk. Then Deloitte and the county attorney come on board and they agree. It's generally not for jails. And then they, as I read all the reports, they give you a tiny hole to go through, in which you got to do some word salad. Suddenly, a jail becomes a treatment facility, hospital, a health center for the most seriously sick people, generally confined in hospitals if they're that sick. And so the jail is no longer a jail, but a hospital. And an inmate just waiting to go to his federal case or to a prison, or doing about 6 months down here as one of our own, is not an inmate, he's a patient. Now that's word salad. I see that the word salad is beginning already. This thing is called on your agenda today, a renovation. No, it's a building. So this word salad is not going to work with the Treasury Department when your attorneys, and stick with your own county attorneys. Deloitte charges you $2 million so far. I'm not charging you anything, and I've been in this business since I was a kid. Count on your attorney. You got a hard thing to do, is to justify this on the law. And my opinion is scrap it all together and stay within the law at low risk. Maybe those of us who have been against this project haven't given you alternatives. We're forming a little group, and we're going to have a report to you that's thoughtful. It's going to be from the, what do we call it? There's a term I hate. I've only came in. It's not the. It's the invested community. So, and we'll have something like that off to you in 30 days. Meanwhile, I'd put the brakes on this thing for a while. You got till December 31st, 2024 to redirect these funds to them that need it and them that are giving direct help to people. Don't go into projects relying on accountants and developers and architects. So you know what you're going to come out with. Buildings. And you've only had 4 months since your lawyers started straightening you out. So don't rush.
Thank you. Louise?
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Yeah, I have a few suggestions for this. It's important that you understand what your project's going to look like. Now that you've approved it, I agree with Commissioner Morgan that you need to keep a tight grip on the money and putting on your contracts that you can't exceed certain amounts. And if they are to exceed, then they need to come back to you for the additional funds. The city of Omaha does that virtually on all their contracts. So that I think that'd be financially wise, especially because your pool of money is federal money. It's the ARPA money, and you've allocated, I think, between 30 to 34 million. So on this design, that you're going to add a level to corrections over the Sally Port. Get a firm design, but I would like also see a design on a wing. Like if you repurpose one of the wings to accommodate 86 beds for mental health inmates or inmates who are suffering from mental health. I like to see that so that you can have a price comparison. And I bring this up because your architect or your designer is going to produce something closer to a schematic, a blueprint. So I think it would be beneficial to see what a wing would look like if it was repurposed. And I had one more thing, but I don't remember anymore. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Louise. No other questions or comments. There is a motion on the floor, Commissioner Kavanaugh, already. Do you want to pull item C and do it separately?
Sure.
And so.
I would, I have an amendment for that as well, to that motion. But
Well,
we could do that separately from the rest, yeah.
yeah, that would probably be cleaner.
Okay.
And does the motioner and seconder, are they okay with that? So it'd be.
Madam Chair, can we clarify the motion and second?
That's, yep. So
Thank you.
the motion and second was Commissioner Rogers and Commissioner Morgan.
And is that for B through I?
It is,
Or B through I less C?
B through I, let's see.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
All right, we will vote on that first and then come back to item C. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
And now there is item C that's up for a motion. Is there a motion to approve? And, yep, is there a second for item C? I will second it, and then go ahead and,
So it's Chris, a motion, and your second?
right.
So, we're missing a couple of our colleagues here today. This is a huge endeavor, the biggest since we did the expansion across the street. And it's the first time that it's, tiered before the public here. And this is going to be an ongoing, enormous expense. There are serious questions regarding the legality of jail expansion, and this is listed on the agenda as a Douglas County Corrections Mental Health. It says renovation / addition. There's no renovation here. This is a jail expansion, pure and simple, of a new construction, 30,000 square foot, 86 bed facility, which is, like $250,000 just per bed, just to make the building, not to staff it over time, which will be very, very expensive going forward, as we found from the situation that we have with the kids' jail across the street. This probably at least should have the full board's consideration and buy-in on this. And so I think without, putting any undue burden on this, if it were to go forward, that it would be wise and prudent to lay it over for a week so that our colleagues, Commissioner Boyle and Commissioner Friend, could weigh in on this, and that we could have a little more time to have everybody's consideration for this expressed, including the public. The first time this has appeared on the agenda since we got the report in August. And so all of these concerns, I mean, we commonly lay things over on the agenda for scheduling reasons, but all of these concerns, in addition to that, to having a full board here for this major jail expansion capital construction proposal, I think would be more than justifying a 1-week layover. Doesn't impair our schedule going forward significantly at all. And come back to this in a week's time and do what we think is prudent to do. And I think some of the, questions raised by my colleague, Commissioner Morgan, could be more completely looked into without any, downside whatsoever. So that's the motion, that we basically lay this proposal over for a week and allow our full board to vote on it then.
I'll second that, the 1 week. Delaying for further discussion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Kavanaugh, seconded by Commissioner Morgan. Any further questions or comments on the motion to lay over item C for 1 week? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes with 4 voting yes and Madam Chair voting no.
All right. Next, we'll move to citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item? Oh, yep, sorry. That was I have to go back because that was an amendment to item C. So now we have to vote on item C. So we voted on the amendment to lay it over. Now we have to go back to the original and vote on it. Should have to lay it over.
Okay, we'll just do that by voice.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes.
Commissioner Kavanaugh? Yes. Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Morgan? Yes. Commissioner Rogers? Yes. Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes
Thank you.
5-0.
Okay, citizen comments. Anyone in the chamber or on Zoom wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda?
Good morning.
Morning.
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. 2 big items this morning. I want to present to you a copy of American Legion magazine, current edition of October. The title is Vote of No Confidence. It's about the elections of 2020. Yesterday afternoon, I was listening to KFAB. And Eric Songer had an afternoon, quite long discussion about the big divide, the extremely big divide between people on the topic of the elections. He thinks the biggest problem is going to be 2024. I called in to say, excuse me, we already have a big problem. They didn't want to take that call. But this needs to be a discussion. I'm glad to see Mr. Klein here today because I'm again requesting a joint meeting of different counties altogether if necessary on the election, but also on the concept of the Islam versus Christianity. These are our chambers. We, the people, no longer trust our government. We no longer trust our elections. We want to hold you guys and them responsible to us here in this chamber so we can ask the right questions and get an answer, because our government officials do not reply to us. A gentleman that ran for governor got defeated and ran for Secretary of State knows a lot about this, and a lot of other people have made presentations all across Nebraska about the machines. I was a programmer for a while. I know you can alter the machines and the software. The contracts that we have in Nebraska with the machine companies are not really valid contracts because we have no control on those machines and their software. This needs to be opened up for a good discussion and have the Secretary of State, the county attorney, the Attorney General, and the election officials on that side with us, we the people that own this center, on that side, so that we can have a total of 10 minutes according to your rules. In other words, we get to have 2 turns at it. We get to question them. They get to come up and just say something, but they can't go over 5 minutes, but maybe only 3. We can limit it to 1. But we can call them back if we want to. But how often do you ever call a citizen back? Hardly ever. But then you do sometimes come off your chair down here as a citizen to counteract what a citizen says. Now, how's that for open meetings and truth in government? How's that for trusting your government? My own representative did that to me a couple weeks ago and called me guilty of hate crimes. I haven't been served yet. How is she able to do that? Okay, freedom of speech, she can come down here and do that. But because none of you objected to that treatment, you're open to possible suit under the Open Meetings Act. But you know what? I'm not going to sue you, because what happens? They shut everybody up. You can't talk about it. We want it talked about. We want it on the agenda. How many times have we asked? Quite a few. American Legion made a magazine on elections, but also information so you can educate yourselves about Islam versus Christianity, which we are a Christian-based country.
1 minute. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board in the chamber or on Zoom about an item not on the agenda?
Ed Fogarty, I'm here just, you can call this a doggerel, but I first thought when Larry got up and said that Islam was not a religion, he's up here trying to narrow the definition of religion, and I wished Commissioner Mike Friend was here. He's always so proud of his Creighton education, which we shared. Those Jesuits make you use the language correctly. My complaint is we don't expand the term or the definition of religion a little broader to include atheists and what do we call them, agnostics. The definition of religion, as I learned it, and as everybody who wants to use the language properly, from Francis Bacon to Saul Kripke, the smartest man in the world who graduated Central the same year I did from prep, religion means basic beliefs about the ends of mankind, proximate cause, formal cause, and all of that. And it is as much a in concrete basic belief that there is no God of the atheist, but they have also moral codes, customs, that causes some to be sinners and some to be real saints. And then we got the agnostic. So let's look at that term. That's kind of a wishy-washy set of beliefs as to, is there a deity? But those people hold those beliefs that I am wishy-washy about God pretty firmly, and then they go ahead and develop their customs and their morality and their sins and lack of sins and virtues, just like any other religion. So I'm here to let religion encompass all of mankind's foibles when they come to addressing the basic truth of why in the heck are we here. And once again, I'll leave it to Commissioner Kavanaugh to talk to Friend and tell him how Jesuitical I got with you all, and he'd probably appreciate it. But thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the board about an item not on the agenda? Luis, I don't know if that's a hand that was left from before, or do you want to add comments at this section?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I'd like to talk to you about the proposed mental health facility addition to corrections.
Yes, that was an agenda item.
The design was, I'm talking about the project. When you approved the project, you added parking to it. I haven't heard much discussion lately on parking. I don't think this project needs parking. If you're going to spend money on parking with this project, I think that you are set up to finance such a project. You do it. You've done it. So you can use your regular money to finance the parking section if it's needed. I don't think it's needed. So I think that you need to provide more evidence or rationales as to why you want parking and that you want to use the ARPA funding for it. I'm talking about $50 million. I want to see this project. I believe this project can cost closer to $27 million, especially if you remove the parking. Parking is not going to be, 15 million, 17 million. I think the addition to corrections can be 27 million. I think you can even go less than that if you scrap the addition and repurpose part of the corrections, because you need to spend less money on this building because it's not going to last much longer. It doesn't have a century's worth of life. It's got a lot less than that. So I think instead of adding a facility for inmates who are suffering from mental health, that you instead repurpose one of the wings. I think they might be called enclosures, but basically an area that can house 86 beds and associated, offices or for administration and security. But like I said, I think this project can cost more or closer to 27 million than what you've already allocated. I think you can cut 6 million from your original price, maybe 7 million. And moving forward, that needs to be the board's posturing, that you're going to be spending less and less and less on it as you get closer to spending the bulk of the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board during this section of the agenda about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to presentations. The first is a presentation and update from the Nebraska Association of County Officials. And today with us is Beth Farrell from the Nebraska Association of Counties. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As Commissioner Borgeson said, I'm Beth Farrell, Legal Counsel with the Nebraska Association of County Officials. Our address is 1335 H Street, Lincoln, 68508. We just wanted to reach out to you this morning with an update about some of the things that NACO is doing. We're your association, and our mission really is to connect counties to the resources that they need to be able to do their jobs. And one of the things that we are really striving for is to provide education. With that, we'll be having our annual conference in December. That's the 13th through the 15th in in Kearney. It's at the Eunice Center North. The theme for that is Better Together, and we're looking forward to working within that theme. Our goal really is to provide actionable information that counties can take back and implement immediately and into the future. So with that in mind, we're going to have sessions on consumption tax. I think it's really important to take a deep dive into that, especially if that issue gets on the ballot this year. We'll look at mental health in the workplace, cybersecurity, power grids, public financing and bonds, housing issues, childcare, and just a number of other issues that are applicable to counties of all sizes and all areas of the state. On Friday, then, we'll have our election of officers for 2024, and in 2024, the Southeast NACO district will have the president serving from that district. It rotates through our districts, so that's the district that Douglas County is in, and we in addition to that representative on the board, there's also a district representative, and Commissioner Borgeson serves as our Douglas County representative on the board. Commissioner Rogers served prior to that, so we appreciate your service with us. In addition to our annual conference, we just about 2 weeks ago had our legislative conference, and with that, in addition to talking about advocacy and different kinds of interactions both at the state and federal levels and interactions and advocacy within your constituent groups, we talked about what legislation NACO wanted to prioritize and to pursue for 2024. Just a couple of those issues that we'll be looking at are some tweaks to the postcard bill, hopefully maybe moving the notification date earlier so that there's more ability to have citizens interact with the different entities that are as they're forming their budgets. We're going to look at treasurer's deeds in response to a case from the U.S. Supreme Court that indicated certain kinds of treasurer's deeds, as we describe them here in Nebraska, can be an unconstitutional taking. We'd like to get some of that clarified. We'd also like to look at the dollar amounts that trigger competitive bidding under the County Purchasing Act. Those were last set in 2018, and it's probably about time to revisit those considering the rate of inflation. We don't want to lose any transparency, but we just think that that's a good, a necessary increase that would need to be made. As far as what legislation we see coming up in 2024, from other introductions, of course, we play offense and defense. So we'll be taking a look at all of the bills that have been introduced in January, and we'll have a discussion about what NACO's position is on those. We know we'll see something that will come from the Governor's Valuation Reform Task Force. Our Executive Director, John Cannon, serves on that task force, and so we'll expect to see some legislation from that. As far as the rest of what we'll see, I guess it's kind of stay tuned. Every session is different, and we'll see what we see. I see the yellow light is on, so I will wrap it up. But as always, if you have any questions or if we can be of service, we are happy to do that because we are your association. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Beth? Again, I think it's great that you're making the rounds through all the counties to speak to the boards, and we appreciate that, and your time. So thank you for the work you do for us.
Thank you.
Did you have a comment for Beth? Oh. Oh, you're here for the next one. Okay. No other questions or comments for the item A presentation?
Skibby Don, I'll be brief. Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. Although the National Association of Counties and National Association of this and that might be doing some good work, they're also a way to keep the citizens from getting into the process of government, because they represent you guys. They don't represent me. You pay dues to them, but actually it comes out of my pocket. But we don't really get to know what they're doing with your legislative issues, et cetera. She's already talking about 2024 and things on the ballot. Well, we'd like to have it run by us before you give them approval to do that, because you're using our dollars. But this is why I point out many times that Americans are losing trust in their government, because it's no longer local, and it's supposed to be local, right down to the city. Most of the power is reserved to the people in the states, to the people, not necessarily to the elected ones, when they're not representing us the way they ought to be. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution implies it is our right and duty to ask you to step down or replace it with a government that is pertinent to our needs.
Okay, Larry,
Now,
stick to the agenda.
Is my 5 minutes up?
Stick to the agenda. This is the Nebraska Association of County Officials, not the national.
It's not necessarily good then.
Okay.
There were, in the early days, there were associators in the town squares watching for the government. Okay?
Thank you. With that, we'll move to the next presentation, update on additional benefit available for Douglas County residents selected for expertly trained facility dog placement by National Association to increase support for victims of crimes in interviews, deposition, and courtrooms.
Good morning. Don Klein, Douglas County Attorney. I'm here to introduce John Brazda, who's our Director of our Victim Assistance Program, and Gene Brazda, who's the Chief of Staff of the Sarpy County Attorney's Office, who has brought along the Sarpy County Facility Dog Trio, just so you can see what they look like. John has worked very hard for some time now to get us a facility dog, and we've been awarded one. We'll get it in about 1 week, probably a week. This is about a $50,000 animal who's unbelievably trained. It's a gift to us. A foundation pays for that, and they pay for the care of the dog. John will take care of the dog. It's amazing how they check every week to see what the dog's weight is to make sure it's being fed the right amount and not getting extra food. It's a facility dog. It's not a pet. It's here to help kind of calm children, victims of crime. Sarpy County has had one for about 10 years. This is their second dog. I noticed Lee Polikov's on Zoom here. He was responsible for that. It's been very successful in Sarpy County. And I'll let John do his presentation and kind of fill you in. We wanted to advise you about it. It's a great benefit, I think, to the citizens of Douglas County, and he'll fill you in about that. Maybe we can answer any questions you might have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Brazda. I'm the Director of the Victim Assistance Unit, a a division within the county attorney's office. Thank you for your time this morning and your patience. A little over a year ago, in a regular meeting with Don Klein, Don was asking me, and I'm paraphrasing, but Don was asking me for suggestions on how can we improve our services to our crime victims in Douglas County. And that conversation led to a facility dog. And I explained what a facility dog is to him and provided him with some literature. And he was extremely elated and supportive of the idea. Over the course of time, that led to application to an organization, a national organization here in the United States called Canine Companions. It wouldn't do me justice or do you justice for me to sit up here and describe what that process looks like, what it feels like, and the benefits to our citizens. And so I have the privilege of living with the chief of staff with the Sarpy County Attorney's Office, who is a successor handler and now on her second facility dog. These dogs are amazing in what they do for crime victims, especially children. The benefits far outweigh any costs, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But without further ado, I would like to introduce my wife and Chief of Staff with the Sarpy County Attorney's Office, Jean Brazda, and her facility dog, Trio, from Canine Companions.
I am Jean Brazda. I am the Chief of Staff in the Sarpy County Attorney's Office, and this is Trio, our facility dog. Trio is 3 years old. He has been with the Sarpy County Attorney's Office for a year and a half. So to tell you a little bit about what a facility dog is, so Canine Companions is the agency that oversees, that owns this dog, and they will own Trio until he retires. A facility dog should work until they're about 10 to 12 years old before they officially retire, and then I'm able to adopt them as a pet. So right now he's a working dog. Canine Companions breed and raise their dogs to be working dogs. Only about 40% of their dogs that go through their training actually graduate as a service dog. So when we talk about facility dogs, we get the best of the best. Again, he's not a pet. He's worth about $50,000. He knows over 38 different commands. He's very much on a schedule. So he even has a command to go to the bathroom. So we had to leave during this board meeting because his 10 o'clock schedule is to go to the bathroom. So I had to run him outside real quick and give him the command to hurry, which is his command to go to the bathroom. So we know that facility dogs bring in a gift for crime victims. The ultimate goal for a facility dog is to reduce that stress, that anxiety for crime victims going through the court process. And that's what he does. There are national studies out there that talk about how a dog's presence just merely calms people down, which we've seen this in action. Did you say hit?
Enter.
Enter, thank you. So when we talk about facility dogs, there are standards from the National Accreditation for Assistance Dogs organization. They set the standards for facility dogs and service dogs. So when Canine Companions is raising their dog, they then zone in on their type of behavior, their skill sets, and they decide from there what type of service they're going to do. So when you look at Trio, his favorite command is a down, which is what he's doing right now. So he would not be a successful service dog paired up with someone with a physical disability, someone who maybe in a wheelchair needs to have the dog pull them. That's not his thing. His favorite thing to do is to lay down, which it's a gift, especially as a facility dog in a courthouse facility. So when we bring him in to meetings, he will lay down for hours there at the crime victim's feet, providing that emotional support, picking up on the emotions that are going on in the room to help calm the situation down. We know when our anxiety is up, our ability to speak goes away. So a crime victim cannot tell their story until their anxiety comes down, which is the tool that Trio would bring. we know that each facility dog is paired up with a professional handler, like me, like what John will be doing. So it's someone in the criminal justice system that has also received training. So Trio, at the age of 8 weeks old, goes off to their puppy raiser for a year and a half. That puppy raiser teaches them socialization skills, exposes them to everything possible, and then when they're a year and a half old, they go back to the training facility for a 6-month intense training. Once they pass their certification, they bring in the handler, me. Our first dog in Sarpy County, it took us 2 years to get him. Manny was his name, and he served us for 8 years. I had to go in and get that week-long training with that facility dog, and then again with Trio. So once Trio and I passed our certification in Ohio, we then flew back to Sarpy County, and that's where we've been ever since. We have to get recertified every year to make sure I don't screw him up, because he is a dog, and so there may be moments that he tries to play me, so I have to make sure that I'm sharp on my commands and making sure he follows the rules that are set for a facility dog. There are other terms out there called like a therapy dog. A therapy dog is not a facility dog. A therapy dog is our pet that has some really great skills, and we can bring him into settings where, public settings, where a dog can be, like PetSmart, or if we're invited into like a senior citizen home, something like that. A therapy dog provides that emotional support for a short period of time. I included in these slides just some information for you guys to understand the difference between a therapy dog and a facility dog, because it's a big difference. It's like a high school education versus a law degree. Both are very important, but they have different roles. So a therapy dog has a different role than our facility dog. You want the best of the best in a facility like the Douglas County Attorney's Office. You want to make sure that that dog does what it's supposed to do and that there's no issues, there's no distractions. Trio also comes with $1 million insurance policy, which means Canine Companions is so confident in the training of their dogs that they know he would never be aggressive towards anybody. In fact, if danger comes my way, he is going to hide behind me. He is not going to be that aggressive dog. And Canine Companions know that because they trained him that way. We also know that therapy dogs they have a short capacity. They go in, they do their thing, they calm down some situations, interact with people, but they have to stay on a lead, whereas a facility dog does not have to. I could put Trio in a witness stand in his under command and leave him be, and I know that he will stay there until he is given the command to get up. How is Trio used in Sarpy County? Well, he is used in so many different ways. He goes to all the victim meetings where the crime victim is interested in having a dog present. He'll attend depositions, he'll attend court hearings, he'll attend trials, he'll go to juvenile court. He and I go to our juvenile justice center once a month to interact with the kids that are in our juvenile justice center. He will go actually hang out with staff. Sometimes when our attorneys are having a really bad day because they've had to do an intense deposition, they may come in and just sit down with Trio, just to debrief. So we know that Trio takes on a lot of that emotions that goes on in a county attorney's office. So we've seen so many important aspects of the use of a facility dog that we could have never imagined. The way that we got started is that we applied for the dog just like John did. It took us a little over a year to get that dog. The important part is to find that handler that understands the role of a facility dog, which is what John is going to be doing. Canine Companions will keep that oversight of the dog. Like I said, they check in regularly. We have to get recertified once a year. They also provide a graduate assistant to check in with John at that 3-month period, the 6-month period, the 1-year period, just to see how John is doing with their facility dog on site. They will come here the first year to see how John is moving around the courthouse, just to make sure that there aren't any issues or distractions that come up. There are a lot of things that we have learned since we've had a facility dog. We know that not everyone likes a dog. So we've had to post signs throughout the courthouse to make sure that people, the public, know that a dog exists. And if there are people who may have allergies, we talk about how we set up that room. If the person with an allergy has to be on the far end to make sure that Trio doesn't provide any discomfort for them. Knowing that as a handler, I already have dog dander on me, so I also would stay away from that person. But we've set those rules up. We've also set up schedules. Like I said, Trio has to go outside around 10 o'clock. If he is in a court hearing, then we make those adjustments. He may give me a cue that the most people would not pick up on. Like he may look at me and just give a yawn. That tells me that, hey, he's getting a little uncomfortable and I have to pay attention to that. We know schedules are important. We track all the advocates in the county attorney's office have access to using Trio, so they are also trained as a handler. We do expose him to about every situation possible. We've had attorneys who, during depositions, have pounded on tables, and Trio has just looked at him like, okay, no big deal. He hasn't jumped up and ran out of the room. That loud construction noise that's going on outside, it did not faze him. Riding up and down on the elevators did not faze him. So we know that he has the training. The facility dogs have the training to be amazing. We also have to educate people. He is not a pet. So when I'm walking around and people are like, oh, look at that cute dog, let me pet him. If he's working and I have to say no. So we stay focused on the task. He's not someone that gets to go off leash and socialize. That's not his role. He's a working dog. When he's at home, he's a crazy dog. But when he's at work, he's got the work face on. We also know that he's a great icebreaker. I mean, people, when you walk into a room, it's like, oh, there's a dog. And then that communication can start. That's his role. And so I want you guys to be like proud of what the county attorney's office has done here, because Trio is the only facility dog that works in a courthouse in the state of Nebraska. So he's the first. Douglas County will be the second. That's very exciting. There are two great organizations that I work closely with, the Courthouse Dog Foundation and then Canine Companions. Are there any questions?
We do have a light, Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thank you for this. I'm a big dog guy. We have a young Aussie at our house who could get some lessons from Trio, being calm. I gotta say, that just having Trio in the room, you don't come to a lot of board meetings, you haven't noticed it, has really calmed the county board proceedings here this morning. I've never seen such a calm and collaborative county board meeting. So he is doing his job. What kind of dog is that?
So he is a Lab Retriever mix.
Okay. I had exactly that dog when I was a boy growing up. They're a great, great dog. And we would, John, get a dog like Trio here?
Exactly, yes. Canine Companions has their own breeders. They utilize science in that process, and they breed Lab Retrievers and Golden Retrievers because of their intellect, their demeanor, and so forth. So yes, it would be similar to, I don't know at this point in time if it's a male, female, whether it's white, black, yellow, I don't know. By this time next week, I'll know more.
Okay. And would you be the one handling our dog?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When do you think that would come online?
Again, 1 week from now, I'll be in the week-long intense training with that facility dog.
With the specific dog that we're going to get?
Correct.
Okay.
And November 6th, I think Monday, November 6th, will be the first day in office with that dog.
Okay. I spent many years as trial attorney in the courts over here, and I can assure you that the calming influence in a trial of a dog would be a really good thing. What you're talking about in terms of lawyers get a little hyper sometimes, yeah, that's very common. So having that, if it actually works, and it sounds like you've got some science behind it that shows that it does, would be a great thing. You said that you take them through the courthouse, I mean, like into the public areas. Tell me a little bit about that. What's the purpose of that?
So the only way we can bring a facility dog into the courthouse is if they're invited. And so TRIO is, we had to go in front of the board and get permission from the board to be present in the Sarpy County Attorney's Office. And so they passed that, so we were able to be there. So my office, I can't just stay in my office. I walk around the courthouse, moving from courtrooms, moving from county court, district court, juvenile court. So we walk around often. Or on busy days where there's jury trials, there's some people that may not appreciate the fact that they've been selected to be on a jury panel. And so they're sitting in the hallway and they're not happy campers. And so I will walk out there and just walk up and down the hallway. At that point, TRIO has the command to interact with people. So those are the times where I may be out in the hallway just engaging the public. Other times it's just moving from point A to point B.
Okay, so John, would you do the same thing here?
I would model our behavior similarly to what Gene and Sarpy County has done. Obviously, we have a little bit different volume and size. And so the primary focus, at least to start off with, would be working with child victims and sexual assault victims, but we're going to expand it out. But yes, this service is for our citizens, for the people, your constituents, and that was the big push behind Don getting this on the agenda today. It's to gain your confidence in a service that we're going to provide. You're also going to find that the negative aspect of that may be that all kinds of animals are going to come up, and I see I'm getting a light, but our security folks, door security folks, may have to say no to people because, like Gene said, that dog is not going to protect itself. I'm going to have to protect it. And so if there's other animals coming into the courthouse that aren't invited or that are not a service dog providing a ADA need, we don't want those negative interactions. We want this dog to have a positive interaction.
So just one final question. Is TRIO in the interaction mode right now?
No, he is not. He can be if I give him the command, so yes.
I'd like to give him a little pat if I could.
Okay, so noted.
Right.
You want that now?
Well, we'll do it down here.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? All right. Well, very good. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move on to committee reports. The first being the finance, the budget report as presented. Item 2, under administrative services, there's a resolution approving and adopting updated procedures for the selection of the contracting with firms to provide professional architecture, engineering, land surveying, landscape, architect, and related services to Douglas County. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any questions or comments? Please, just Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Roger, the difference that we're making in terms of this is architectural selection or employment. I don't have it right here in front of me. Could you just outline for the record real quick what architectural, engineer, and related services changes we are making? The committee for selection? Oh, Jeff? Okay, great. Oh, and the engineer. Very good.
Jeff McGill, Douglas County Public Properties. This is a updated selection for A&E. We did this in 2009. I have Dan here. He's the chair of the committee. I'm actually not on the committee, but I brought it forward to.
Well, I'm glad you're here though, because we just did, kind of a discussion on this, on the contract thing.
Correct.
Would this affect anything that we're doing on that particular action?
No, would be still following the same procedure. We'll still be following the same procedures.
I see. Okay.
We're actually updating the selection dollar amounts to match the city of Omaha.
Is that like the bidding process and things?
It's the spending limits. So if, for example, we can hire a professional engineer or architect up to $100,000. And there's another limit between 100 and 150, and then I think it's
Are those,
100 to 250, and then 250 above.
those are increasing current thresholds?
Correct.
So we can do that without going to bid?
Well, no. This is being interviewed by the AE committee, these limits. You want to talk a little bit, Dan?
Right. I see it on page 3 here. Up to and including 100,000, a list of firms who are interested in working for the county projects under and up to 100,000 is posted on our internet. The selection committee, in consultation with the department head, may select a firm from the discipline list, negotiate a fee, and prepare a purchase order to hire the firm. County board approval is not required. So that's a change from current thresholds, right?
Dan Kudelek, Douglas County Engineers Office. First, we do not bid the selection. They're qualified-based type of selection, depending on their employee, staff members, and expertise in certain types of architectural engineering, could be other services for that matter. So it's a selection through the qualifications, not a bidding. We select a firm and then we negotiate a fee, is how the fees come about. But we have a pretty good idea what that fee is going to be based on our experiences. We're pushing about 16 years since we've updated this selection process. Just through inflation alone is eating up the biggest cost involved with this selection. City of Omaha updated their selection process about 12 years ago, and what we're doing basically is just updating ours to be similar to the City of Omaha, so there's some consistency throughout all of Douglas County. It's somewhat confusing with the consultants when they're both dealing with city and county, asking why is this, explain this to us, you know, that type of thing. So we think it's time for it, and you know, the numbers reflect actually the City of Omaha's process that they started, I believe, in 2011.
So, Dan, if I understand you, this allows whoever's making the decision, whether it's department head or elected official, to select a firm from the discipline lists. Now, these discipline lists are lists of like architectural engineering firms that have been pre-approved that people qualify for?
Yes, we solicit annually, I believe, firms that would like to be on that list, and that way they could be considered for projects up to $100,000 now.
Okay. So that's for up to 100,000, and then there are two other categories, 100 to 250 and 250 and above.
Right.
Are there significant differences in the selection
Yes, there is. The up to 150,000, I believe it is, Jeff, isn't it? 100 to 250, we can select the consultant off of the proposals. The selection committee will pick 3 proposals and then make a decision between those 3 internally who would be selected, and goes to the county board ultimately for approval. And then over 250,000, it's a similar procedure, but we do an actual interview where the consultant comes in and explains in person what they can and can't do.
Time. And Commissioner Kavanaugh?
If you want to finish, Dan.
Well, it's you know, a lot of work for the consultants even to do these interviews. You know, they put a lot of effort into it, and our numbers now are, we feel, very low and require interviews where really it isn't necessary. You know, we can select these types of professional help through their proposals, which are
in itself a lot of work to put together and explain what they can do.
So you and the engineer's office would endorse this change?
Absolutely.
And Jeff, you and the public property is the same?
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? There was a motion and a second, I believe. Yeah. All right, please vote. Next, we'll move to Human Resources, the weekly personnel report from Civil Service as presented. No legislative items at this time. There is need for executive session for union contract negotiations. There is a Human Resource Committee meeting at 1 o'clock in room 903. With that, is there a motion to go into executive session for union negotiation?
We had possibly some legal discussion too.
For legal advice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 5-0.